Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a really frustrating paradox that plays out literally everywhere, every single day. Millions of people are out there grinding for promotions, they're doubling their salaries, and yet they remain entirely financially stuck. I mean, they work these endless hours, but have absolutely zero true financial freedom to show for it.
So, we're going to investigate this core mystery. Why does chasing a higher salary rarely actually lead to true wealth? Well, the truth is, the gap between the rich and the rest almost never comes down to income. It actually comes down to psychology. By the time we wrap up here, you're going to see exactly how your mindset, way more than your paycheck, is what dictates your financial reality.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the income illusion.
Now, we are so heavily conditioned to believe that a six-figure salary just magically erases all financial worry, right? But consider the stark contrast here. On one side, you've got high earners pulling in these massive bonuses, yet they're somehow still living paycheck to paycheck. They're highly stressed and literally one missed check away from disaster. Then on the other side, you have wealth builders who might actually take a smaller salary at first, but they systematically acquire assets over time. It just goes to show, earning money and keeping money, those are two completely different skill sets.
Ultimately, a massive income means absolutely nothing if you don't have the financial intelligence to back it up. It's kind of like a leaky bucket. You can pour as much water as you want into that bucket, but if it's full of holes, it's always going to be empty. Developing your financial intelligence is what actually plugs those holes. It forms this protective shield right around your income. Moving on to our next big trap. Section 2, the lifestyle trap.
This right here is the invisible quicksand of personal finance. We call it lifestyle inflation. It's this overwhelming psychological urge to increase your spending to perfectly match any increase in your income. You know how it goes? You get a raise, and suddenly you feel like you need a larger house, or maybe a luxury vehicle financed with debt just to impress people. It's a really dangerous habit that aggressively consumes your wealth before it even has a chance to compound.
And this brings up a massive blind spot for so many of us, the huge difference between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy. Looking wealthy is loud, right? It's all designer clothes and luxury cars bought on credit with absolutely no underlying security. But actual wealth is quiet. It's an investment portfolio, it's equity, it's having options. True wealth is exactly what you don't see.
So why do so many smart people get stuck here? Let's look at Section 3, the education gap.
The harsh reality is we just aren't taught the fundamental levers of money in school. I mean, we spend years learning advanced calculus, but we completely miss out on mastering the basics like saving, investing, cash flow, and compound growth. Understanding that an asset puts money in your pocket while a liability takes it out, that isn't just some corporate buzzword. It is the absolute foundational building block of financial freedom.
I love this point. The person who understands money has control over money. I want you to think about your own financial life for a second. Are you just reacting to bills? Are you being controlled by your finances? Or are you actively directing your money, using it like a tool to build your ideal life? Making that switch requires a really profound psychological shift.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, the time advantage.
You see, money isn't just about math. It's incredibly tied to our relationship with time. Biologically, we are totally wired for instant gratification. We crave these massive returns in a matter of days or weeks. But true wealth, that requires the discipline of a decades-long approach. It's basically the difference between treating the stock market like a quick scratch-off lottery ticket versus systematically planting seeds that you know will grow into an orchard over time.
Just look at Warren Buffett's legendary long-term investing approach. Truly successful people don't play the game for tomorrow. They plan for decades. They step back and allow compound growth to do all the heavy lifting. They understand that real, sustainable financial expansion happens very slowly at first, and then, boom, all at once. If you can just stretch your time horizon from days out to decades, you literally change the entire game you're playing.
So how do we actually do this? Let's break it down in Section 5, the wealth blueprint. How do we practically escape these traps? Well, becoming wealthy isn't some highly guarded secret formula. It's really just a commitment to making better decisions through 5 very practical steps. 1. Spend less than you earn to create a margin. 2. Continuously upskill yourself. 3. Invest that margin consistently no matter what the market is doing. 4. Build multiple income sources so you never have a single point of failure. And 5, like we just talked about, stretch your time horizon to decades. Honestly, it really is that straightforward, but it requires relentless, unwavering consistency.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to internalize this one thing. Wealth is never an accident. Your financial future is being built brick by the tiny micro-habits you engage in today. Those seemingly insignificant choices, like financing a luxury just to impress your neighbors or quietly buying an asset, will inevitably create the reality you're going to wake up in tomorrow. Which leaves you with one genuinely life-altering question. What financial choice are you going to make today?
Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating financial paradox. It's this reality that a person can earn a highly lucrative income and yet still struggle financially for decades. Crazy, right? It seems entirely counterintuitive. The common assumption is, hey, if you make good money, you're naturally going to be wealthy. But as we'll explore, income and wealth, they're two completely different things. Earning a lot of money is literally just the first step. Keeping it and growing it requires a completely separate set of behaviors.
There's a powerful realization we really need to accept here. The problem is not always how much money someone makes. The real problem is the financial decisions they make every day. Let that sink in for a second. It completely reframes how we think about personal finance. The actual size of your paycheck is often secondary to the daily, almost insignificant choices you make with that money. Buying a coffee, financing a car, choosing to save instead of invest, these everyday decisions carry massive compounding weight over a lifetime.
Okay, let's dive into this. What are the everyday decisions keeping you from wealth? I want you to use this explainer to audit your own financial habits. As we walk through these concepts together, be radically honest with yourself. Ask yourself, am I unknowingly making these very common, deeply ingrained missteps? Because these are exactly what quietly erode your financial freedom.
To make this super easy to digest, we've grouped 7 common money mistakes into 4 distinct phases. 1. The income and skill trap. 2. The illusion of wealth. 3. Fear of growth and risk. And 4. The master financial plan.
Let's kick things off with phase 1, the income and skill trap and the danger of a single paycheck.
So, this is where so many well-intentioned people get entirely stuck. The very first mistake keeping people poor is relying on only one income source. I mean, think about it realistically. Depending on a single paycheck means you have a single point of failure. If that job disappears, whether from a layoff, illness, or some economic downturn, your entire financial foundation just crumbles. Successful, wealthy people understand this incredible vulnerability. That's exactly why they proactively build multiple income sources to protect themselves, like business ownership, investments, and digital income. They diversify. This might mean starting a side hustle for weekend cash, strategically investing in dividend stocks, or building scalable digital income like an e-commerce store. They're creating a strong web of income, not just hanging by a single thread.
But look, building those income streams is virtually impossible if you stop growing. Stopping personal growth is a total trap. People often think learning magically ends the second they receive a diploma. Actually, scratch that. It's more like they just get burned out on studying. But successful people, they are continuous, lifelong learners. They're obsessed with building their own human capital because they know the absolute best, highest-yielding investment they can ever make is in themselves.
Developing modern high-leverage skills is what actually creates those new financial opportunities. We're talking about things like technology, communication, marketing, business knowledge, and investing skills. When you upskill in these areas, you don't just become more valuable to an employer. You give yourself the exact tools you need to build independent wealth. Like, understanding how to market a product online could turn a weekend hobby into a highly profitable business. Or mastering communication could help you negotiate better partnership terms. Continuous growth directly fuels your earning power.
Moving on to phase 2, the illusion of wealth, which covers capital outflow and social pressure. Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is
the massive difference between trying to look rich by spending money on status versus becoming rich by buying things that make you wealthier. This is a highly destructive mistake keeping people trapped. The struggling majority falls victim to this intense social media pressure, right? They're constantly comparing themselves to others, blowing hard-earned money on status symbols. We're talking luxury cars, designer clothes, expensive watches, things that immediately lose value. I mean, a brand new car can lose up to 20% of its value the absolute minute you drive it off the lot. On the flip side, the wealthy minority totally ignores that social noise. They spend their money acquiring assets. They buy things that actually make them wealthier over time, like index funds, real estate, or business equity. They prefer quiet wealth over loud, depreciating debt.
And this immense pressure to appear wealthy often leads right into our next major pitfall, the misuse of debt.
You have to understand that not all debt is created equal. Harmful debt creates unnecessary borrowing and financial stress, like maxing out high-interest credit cards for those depreciating status symbols we just talked about. It acts like heavy weights chained to your ankles, pulling you down. Useful debt, however, is driven by responsible money decisions. It's leverage. The wealthy strategically use useful debt, like a fixed-rate mortgage on a rental property, to buy assets that will generate a cash return way higher than the cost of the borrowing itself. It's a total game changer.
All right, let's look at phase 3, fear of growth and risk, and why saving alone may not build wealth.
And this brilliantly illustrates the point. If we map out compound wealth growth over 10, 20, and 30 years, the cost of not investing becomes absolutely staggering. A massive mistake people make is believing that simply hoarding cash in a low-yield savings account is enough. It just isn't, because inflation is going to quietly eat away your purchasing power year after year. When you invest early, your money goes to work making money, and then that new money makes even more money. That's the snowball effect of compound interest. Let's use the rule of 72 to put that into perspective. If you earn a 7% return, your invested money doubles roughly every 10 years. The mistake is waiting for the perfect zero-risk time to invest, completely missing out on that exponential wealth-multiplying growth.
There's a saying among successful investors: time is one of the greatest advantages an investor can have. It is the ultimate, irreplaceable ingredient for wealth generation. It's really not about perfectly timing the market. It's about maximizing your time in the market. Every single year you sit on the sidelines out of fear is a year of compound interest you can absolutely never get back.
Which naturally leads us to the psychology of risk itself. A huge mistake people pour is avoiding all risk entirely just to feel completely safe. But wealth requires calculated risk. Now, a calculated risk isn't carelessly betting your life savings on some random stock tip. It's a smart risk that creates opportunities. It's spending a couple $100 in your weekends thoroughly testing a new business idea before taking the leap to quit your day job. It's an asymmetrical risk where the potential upside massively outweighs the downside. While people struggling financially try to avoid risk at all costs, successful folks embrace calculated risks. They know failure is just data. They learn, they adjust, and they use those smart risks to engineer incredible opportunities.
Finally, we arrive at phase 4, the master financial plan. This is all about tying the strategy together.
To actually succeed, you have to tie everything we've talked about into a cohesive personal wealth strategy consisting of 3 non-negotiable steps. Step 1. Set necessary goals. What does financial freedom actually mean to you in hard numbers? Step 2. Create a long-term strategy to reach those goals, meaning actively incorporating multiple income streams, intelligent asset purchases, and compound investing. And step 3, which is probably the hardest of the whole shebang, build financial discipline. A brilliant strategy is utterly useless without the daily discipline to execute it, even when it gets boring.
And here is where we find some immense clarity. Most people fail because small financial mistakes repeated over years create big consequences, not because they lack ambition. I really want to reassure you, a lack of ambition is rarely the actual problem. People deeply want to succeed. The true wealth killer is the compounding negative effect of tiny, careless choices. Buying a liability instead of an asset, missing an investment window out of fear, taking on a little bit of bad debt, repeated mindlessly over decades.
But you know what? The reverse is beautifully true. Wealth is built through knowledge, discipline, patience, and consistent action. If small negative choices compound into poverty, then small, intelligent, disciplined choices will inevitably compound into absolute financial freedom. It simply requires you to aggressively educate yourself, be incredibly patient with the process, and take consistent action no matter how small or insignificant that action might seem today.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative question as we wrap up. What is the first financial decision you will change today to start building your wealthy future? Don't wait for tomorrow or the so-called perfect moment. Take the structure, the strategies, and the insights we've just unpacked in this explainer and put them into practice right now. Thanks so much for joining me, and I absolutely can't wait to see the wealth you build.